You know what ICE car owners call this car? Yeah, this one. Well, it's a Tesla Model 3, but not just any Model 3. It is the rear-wheel drive 110 model that I believe is unique here in Singapore. We call it the Cat A variant. Now, ICE car owners call it detuned. It is a poor man's EV. It's for nerds. It's weak. Yeah, I kid you not. You go see through the comments on my previous videos and you will find those self-proclaimed so-called real drivers laughing at the detuned models from previously Cat B models, along with poking fun of EV drivers. Yeah, they say buy a proper car instead, like a BMW. Toasters on wheels are for nerds. Drive a Mercedes if you want luxury. Or even my Civic can smoke this thing. Now, through the dozens of videos I've made, right, I've gotten used to comments like this against EVs. But for a detuned EV like this Model 3 110 model, there's even more ridicule. So why are these true drivers laughing at cars like this, even though they still cost nearly $200,000, you know? Is it because it's not the normal Model 3 rear-wheel drive trim? Or they think this is insufficient? Is it because it has been detuned to below 110 kilowatts for Cat A? Or is it because it's weaker on paper than what the rest of the world gets? Though if you know, I'm not a Tesla owner. I'm not the biggest fan of the brand either. More so, I own a BYD even. So, is this claim true? Do I agree that this Tesla Model 3 rear-wheel drive 110 model is really the weak Tesla that everyone should avoid? Well, except for nerds. My name is Colin. Let's find out, shall we? So what I'm going to do in this video is not to do a review. This Cat A model came out like a year ago and there are tons of reviews on it. I guess since you are here with me and if you watched my EV videos before, right, you sort of know that I don't do that, no? So instead, I'm going to attempt to prove the arguments put forth by those real drivers using this lowest tier, cheapest, and absolutely weakest car in the Tesla lineup. Yeah, what this rear-wheel drive 110 model is Tesla's most entry-level model that you can get here in Singapore. It's still $190,000 though, but being in the Cat A category, this Model 3 should have absolutely bare bones features, right? Well, at least the detuned motor running at a maximum 110 kilowatts down from the 208 kilowatt rear-wheel drive model that it inherited from would be weak, right? So I went for a 4-day test drive in this car, and here's what I have to say about the first comparison point of this Model 3, its drive. Now, I'm not comparing this car to other EVs because chances are buyers of this car would not have owned another EV. They are the ones who are considering adopting an EV, and this Model 3 is what they have been eyeing, at least one of the entry-level EVs that they have been considering all this while. Anyway, back to how this car drives. And here's the first thing you need to know if you've never driven in an EV before. Even though this is the so-called weakest Tesla, when you drive it in Singapore traffic, right, you will not feel like it is weak at all. Because EVs have instant torque, and the moment you step on the accelerator, it just goes. Unlike in an ICE car, especially a turbocharged one, there's no waiting for the revs to go out in the engine, there's no turbo lag, there's no delay for the gearbox to drop a gear. It just press the pedal and it just lurches forward instantly. And especially in city driving, at the traffic lights, when merging into PIE, at the expressway, going to work, or even just overtaking a Toyota that is hogging the lane, right? This Tesla feels effortless. And you must understand this about acceleration in the real world. While Tesla reports 8.6 seconds from 0 to 100, right? You cannot legally go up to 100 here in Singapore legally. It's the 0 to 30 kilometers per hour at the lights or 70 to 90 kilometers overtaking at the expressway that are more important, if you ask me. That's because ICE cars, while they might have faster 0 to 100 figures than 8.6 seconds, right? Their initial climbs needs to build up the power. But here, the pull is immediate, and that's where the Model 3 feels way above its published figures. So if anyone tells you that this car is weak, well, I don't recommend it. Ask them to try to overtake you from standstill to the legal speed limit. Many ICE sedans at this price point won't stand a chance. But frankly, we don't buy a car to do jackrabbit sprints all the time, right? Every time I see an older BMW 3 Series convertible or a 10-year-old Mercedes C-Class doing this at every opportunity, I kind of can guess that it is a noob owner on a wheel trying to show off to other road users, which honestly we don't give a hoot. But instead, yes, while real car owners want power on call sometimes, at most other times we just want a dramaless drive. I mean, for me, having owned cars for 30 plus years now, my priorities in my daily drivers are that they should be effortless and confident to drive. And yes, on both low speed and expressway speeds, the steering is light enough and is precise in this car. But the issue of the overly heavy steering at parking speed from the Model Y seems to be as pronounced here in this Model 3 too. Though you can dial in the weight of the steering accordingly. But anyhow, what's more crucial is the confidence I get in this car behind the wheel. Now the front wheels turn to exactly where I want it to turn at any speed, and the car doesn't roll like in the Model Y. And the suspension here seems to be firm, but not rudely hard until you feel all the imperfections on the road. Now honestly, almost everything is compliant, direct, and just right in this car. In fact, I'll go so much into saying that this Model 3 drives better than the Model Y that I tested last month. And it has to be being a sedan here compared to the taller SUV that is the Model Y. So honestly, no. This Model 3 doesn't drive any poorer than most ICE car. I dare say it even drives pretty on par in terms of the confidence I get with some mid-end BMWs and Mercs, like the 520 and the E200. And this car doesn't pale in comparison too much to them in terms of performance too. Yeah, so that's the first argument debunked. I don't mean debunked, because EV owners will know that how well EVs drive already, comparable to some ICE cars. And it's actually the stoic, hard-headed ICE car owners who refuse to even try out an EV whom I'm arguing with here. Anyway, there are a few more points that I'll be testing out to see if this Model 3 is weak. So next up, features, especially the ADAS, which is Advanced Driver Alerting System, and Tesla's Autopilot. ADAS, if you haven't heard of this before, is essentially your software-assisted safety features. Now, if you've driven in an older car, you've probably heard of electronic stability control or autonomous emergency braking. And if you own a higher spec Honda or Toyota, you would be familiar with other features like lane departure assist, adaptive cruise control, and lane keep assist. Now essentially, the car predicts a danger or collision before our slow human brain and limbs can react by steering the car or braking it for us automatically. Take for instance the autopilot in this car. Now this car can drive by itself somewhat by turning the wheel for you and keeping a safe distance behind the car in front of you at the expressway. Super useful during the jam back home in the KPE. Now I know adaptive cruise control isn't a big thing now, but have you seen these things in any other car? Yes, this Model 3 can change lane for you if you're too scared to do so. But honestly, right, I'm more scared of the car doing this for me than I have to do it on my own. But you know what? It's there should you need it. My point is, in this Tesla, which even if it's positioned as the most entry-level Tesla, the list of advanced safety and autonomous driving features is double or even triple the number for even luxury Conti models. There are so many features that I won't be able to list them all here. I mean, if you must, right, go and test out a sales consultant at Tesla for the full list. Just don't tell them that Colin sent you. But my point is this. A lot of safety features are built in as standard in this $190,000 car. Yes, there are some others you can additionally spec in even after you bought this car, but many of the standard features would be optional extras you have to pay 5K, 10K, or even 15K for in BMW or Mercedes. In fact, even if you bought all the optional features in those cars, right, you probably still won't top what this Tesla can give you. Now, I don't know. I don't want to talk about the light show, the fax sounds, and these center heat map that are cute but technically useless after the first few times you have played with them. I'm talking about inbuilt games that are actually good games from your mobile phone. And there's Spotify, YouTube, Netflix, apps that are genuinely useful if you are kicked out of the house by the wife for telling her that her parking sucks. And more so when you told her that this Model 3 can automatically park better than her. So honestly, at this point, this Cat A Model 3 drives as well, if not better, and is safer and more fun, literally, than many ICE cars. The argument that it's weak is getting, well, weaker. By the way, if you are enjoying this breakdown so far, remember to like this video, drop a comment if you agree or disagree, and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss more of these real-world EV topics that I love to discuss. In fact, why not continue with the Model Y video that I put up here after this one? Third point, having owned 70 cars in over 30 plus years now, including that BYD seal, I realized that this is something that I crave more than ever in my cars now. A peaceful ride. Yeah, no loud engine purrs and no neighbor waking exhaust notes. In fact, if an ICE car can crank without any jolt and noise, I would appreciate it more. And you know what? In an EV, there's none of this. I mean, if you haven't experienced an EV before, this would be one of the weirdest sensations that you get when you first start an EV up. Let me show you. See, the car has already started and it's really quiet. No engine noise, no vibration, no exhaust smells leaking into your cabin when your windows are open. In fact, you can legally idle your EV with your aircon on while waiting to pick your kid from tuition. And motorcyclists will appreciate waiting at the traffic lights behind an EV because they won't be poisoned by the fumes that ICE cars emit. And when the car is in motion, everything's just smooth, silent driving. It makes even a basic commute feel premium. And yes, on both low speeds and on expressways, this Model 3's ride is hush, quiet, and peaceful. Now, there's no noise from the engine because there's none. There's no vibration because there are no pistons gyrating from micro explosions happening in the box in front of the car. And there's hardly any road and wind noise too. Now, this is luxury car level of refinement you don't get unless you are paying 50k to 100k more in a Continental. And in a car this quiet, the signals, clicks, and the chimes in the car can sound loud. And I was told that there's a Joe mode that lowers the decibels even more so that your baby and your passengers can sleep soundly in the car. Tesla owners, can you confirm this? But as important as the peace is the sound system in the car. Now, in the previous video of the Model Y, I was very critical of its sound quality. And I got blasted by the American owners that I'm deaf or stupid for saying that. That's because I didn't mention in the video that our Teslas here are assembled in China. So we don't get the premium 19 speaker systems that can be found in their US assembled models. But one more thing I need to clarify. I think when I was testing the audio then in the Juniper, I shifted the sound staging to focus on me in the driver's seat. Hence, the audio sounded flat. But in this Model 3, I gave it another chance and I find that the audio is actually pretty good. I would say that it is on par with the stock 12 speaker Dyne audio system found in my BYD if you don't purposely find fault on the frequencies. After all, most people won't be able to tell the difference in the sound quality, staging, and firmness when playing a compressed track on Spotify versus a lossless track on Tidal. Next, I want to talk about something called one pedal driving, which is a game-changing experience. But before I continue, what is also game-changing is the sponsor of this video, Lens Marketing. Now, Lens is a video production company that has produced nearly 1,900 client videos since 2016. Now, they have delivered corporate branding, sales, and event videos for global brands to government entities to small businesses. In fact, they have been proficient in producing social media reels and YouTube videos such as this one that you are watching. If your business or company is considering to make a game-changing video or two for marketing, for education, for testimonials, or for sales, contact Lens Marketing at this QR code here. Now, back to one pedal driving, which means we need to go for another drive. Now, I believe no ICE car owner will be able to experience this in their cars. One pedal driving means that the car will automatically brake itself down to a standstill even when the brake pedal isn't depressed. How this works on EVs is because the electric motor's regen mode is tuned to be able to grind down to zero speed. Nissan has been rather well known for this feature in its e-power HEVs for many years here. And so is Tesla, but to a lesser extent because they don't really market this feature. Why is this feature a game changer? Well, during a drive home in this Model 3, right, I was caught in a horrible 1-hour traffic jam along around 5-kilometer stretch of the expressway. Now, the start-stop conditions would be a nightmare if I'm driving a manual car. And even if in a car with an automatic gearbox, right, it wouldn't be a pleasant experience, experiencing toggling between the accelerator and the brake pedal every few seconds. I mean, we all experience this when we drive into JB at the causeway, right? So with one pedal drive, I didn't have to step on the brake pedal once for the entire journey back home. All I needed to do is to regulate the accelerator pedal and ease off when I want to brake. And you know what's the advantage that comes from this? Without pressing on the brake pedal, right, there's no wear on the brake pads and this, and no brake dust. I can imagine with this feature, the brake pads and this can last easily 2 to 3 times longer, maybe more. Oh yeah, I haven't even mentioned about the electricity regenerated from the engine braking. Now I say engine brake because it feels very much like that when in a low gear, only that for this Model 3 and any Teslas, the car comes to a complete stop. And after driving 2 Teslas for a few days now, I really love this feature because it's especially useful here in Singapore's traffic. Alright, next. Because this is an EV, we need to address the charging economics. Yes, the argument from the anti-EV camp is that charging is so slow and therefore so inconvenient. Now, this has been all their arguments in my first few videos on EVs, but today, the majority of them have stopped commenting. I don't know if they have given up or they are starting to eat their words. But charging in Singapore, right, is anything but inconvenient. With like 20,000 chargers here now, maybe even more, we can charge our EVs anywhere. And I do mean anywhere. There are chargers at the malls, at the parks, in what seems like one in every 2 or 3 HDB car parks, even at petrol stations. And every time I go to a mall that has a stretch of EV chargers, even at peak hours during evenings or weekends, right, I am assured of a parking lot. I mean, I relish at watching the ICE cars going round and round looking for slots when there are like 10 NP ones for me to pick. What about the charging speed they poked? Waiting for the car to charge for 1 hour is a joke. Now, firstly, they don't understand how should a car be charged. I mean, do they plug in their phone in to charge and then sit beside it waiting for 2 hours for it to be full? No, right? For me, a 1 hour DC charge means I can go for a grocery run. A 2 hour slower DC charge means I can go for a relaxing meal, maybe with my wife, and then some park tour time. And an 8 hour AC charge means I just leave the car plugged in overnight. In fact, if I've ever stressed about charging speed, it's for those 180 kilowatt fast chargers. Now, this Cat A Model 3 is maxed out at 170 kilowatts of DC charging and 11 kilowatts of AC charging. That means at a supercharger like where I am now, or any fast DC stations, right? In theory, a 20% to 100% charge would take only about 15 minutes. Perhaps a toilet break and buying some snacks before I come back to the car, reply some of my WhatsApp and YouTube comments. Wait, isn't this what petrol car owners are doing at a petrol station? So really, having owned an EV for a year now, I never felt that I've wasted my time charging my car. In fact, when I'm pumping petrol for my petrol SUV, right, my work car, I thought it's a waste of time needing to divert to a petrol station that I frequent, which will almost never be on the way to work or home. And I haven't even talked about the savings you will get when it comes to charging electricity versus pumping petrol. Now, I won't go into the details in this video, but even with public DC charging, you stand to save around 50% of fuel costs or more. Now, the cheapest DC chargers are at 60 cents per kilowatt hour, which means for this Model 3's 60 kilowatt full SoC or state of charge, right, you only pay $36. Now, this gives you a WLTP claim range of 513 kilometers. Now, for a equivalent 2-liter petrol car with a fuel efficiency of say 12 km per liter, to travel 513 kilometers, you'll be paying around $90 with the cheapest 95 octane fuel. Now, you multiply these savings, which is per tank, to the number of tanks that you pump in your ICE car per year currently, right? And you get to see how much money you'll be saving in an EV. And I'm just talking about EVs in general here. And being a Tesla, right, this Model 3 has an advantage over other EV brands here in Singapore, the Tesla supercharger network. Now, you won't understand unless you have owned an EV, a non-Tesla, and experience the contrast when charging on one of these. Gone will be the times when you need to fumble on your phone, selecting the correct app for the correct charging station, keying in your credit card details, which somehow the app always seems to forget, and then having the charger stop your charging when you run out of credits. Not for Tesla. I was blown away the first time that I tried it. Not literally, of course. I just open up the charging flap, plug in the nozzle, and that's it. Everything is linked to the Tesla account that's registered with the car. So honestly, there's nothing weak about charging EVs, especially a Tesla. What's weak is the ability of those anti-EV trolls in seeing the convenience and potential of charging. And instead, they keep digging on anything bad about plugging in a car into a wall. Anyway, one more argument they frequently put out is that EVs become obsolete quickly as technology progresses really fast. Well, in some ways, I cannot deny that like phones, new EV tech are introduced every year. But here's the counter argument. In fact, there are two. First, there is something called over-the-air or OTA updates. This is something that ICE or even hybrid cars will never smell. I remember when I was driving my Merc GLC Coupe, when they needed to update firmware urgently, right? The dealer needed to initiate a recall exercise. Then I have to book for a slot, drive my car down to the workshop, down the car for a day, and when I got my car back, right, all my user settings, my wallpapers, even my Apple CarPlay were wiped out. And all the workshop said was, sorry, we have to reset the whole software. But in an EV, and especially for Teslas, the OTA is as simple as updating software on a phone. It's literally a press of a button on the screen, and 1 hour later, we have a new feature. Now, I've never experienced OTA on a Tesla, but in my BYD, with the quarterly OTA updates, right, I've gotten a new UI for my screen, new games and apps, new function shortcuts, updates to the safety features, to the voice controls, new updates to my phone app, and so much more. So frankly, EV owners like us, we aren't worried about missing out on the new software features that come out later, even years later. Second counter argument, newer EVs will have newer hardware features like solid-state batteries, LiDAR, even more rapid charging, bigger capacity batteries, etc., etc. But won't this be the same for any ICE or hybrid car? Now, at the rate of Japanese, Korean, and especially German car makers refreshing their cars every 2 years sometimes, right? What's new today can be obsolete in 2 to 3 years' time. At least for EVs, they get software updates. Isn't that better? And for Tesla, right, I was told that diagnosis can even be done over the air, meaning if the car displays some symptoms, the service center can figure out the problem with your car anywhere in the world as long as there's data reception and potentially fix it even without you having to do anything. Tesla owners, correct me if I'm wrong. So really, what's so weak about this technological advantage? Anyway, lastly, the last thing that I want to debate on that virtually every EV hater will bring up is the resale value of EVs, Tesla included. So let's talk about this by doing a few comparisons. First, I put up that Model 3 rear-wheel drive 110 against a Merc C-Class C180 Avantgarde. So they are the cheapest variant versus the cheapest variant. Now, in terms of drive comfort and dimensions, right? Okay, they are both about the same. Not the price though. The C180 is 310K compared to the 190K for the Tesla. Yet, in terms of the OMV, the C-Class is only 39K compared to the 48K for the Model 3. Fine, you argue that ARF is more important in calculating resale value, right? That I don't disagree. So, for the Merc, the ARF is 47K compared to the 23K for the Tesla after BES and EEAI rebates. So after 10 years, right, the paper value will be 23K or half of this and around 11K for the Model 3. But look at the depreciation. The C180 is 29K per year versus 18K for the Tesla. Yes, you can argue that, in terms of road tax, the Merc is lower. But even after 10 years, right, the difference is barely $9,000 only. This is less than a year of depreciation. Okay, so you say it is unfair to compare a Cat A Model 3 to a luxury car. So let's do it again with a Toyota Camry Hybrid 2.5. Alright, so Camry is $270,000, a full 80K more expensive than the Model 3 Cat A. ARF though is $46,000, so paper value after 10 years would be 23K. Good, right? But depreciation is $25,000 per year. And now also the road tax is higher than the Tesla too. Okay, again you say it's not an apple to apple comparison to use the Camry. Fine. Let's use a lower tier ICE car, in this case the Honda Civic 1.5 petrol. Now the price matches that of the Tesla and it is at $190,000. But wait, ARF is only $30,000 now. Okay, and in 10 years time, the paper value would be $15,000. And depreciation is lower also by $500 per year. And so is the road tax by $900 a year. But honestly, would you settle for a Civic for mere savings of $1,400 a year? $2,000 tops if we include the more expensive insurance for the Tesla? Well, but since we are nitpicking, can the savings in fuel costs offset that 2K? How about the brake pads, the engine oil, transmission fluids, and all the filters and servicing label that we don't need in the Tesla now? I honestly think that EV haters are picking up a losing fight. Certainly when the world is heading towards a reality without ICE car. Certainly here in Singapore when policy states that no ICE car will exist from 2040 onwards. My point is this. At $190,000, being the most affordable model in Tesla range here, this Model 3 rear-wheel drive 110 variant is no doubt the least capable among all its bigger brothers and cousins. But is it weak at all when compared to all the available car options at this price range here in Singapore? Certainly not. For sure, the Model 3 has its limitation. For one, it is a sedan. And Even with its spacious front and rear seats, it's no fight with the Model Y or even my BYD Seal. But it's more than enough, bigger than those in the Civic, even in the C180 costing $120,000 more. And okay, the boot is also nowhere close to what the Model Y can swallow up, but at 682 liters, right, which honestly I don't know how Tesla measured it, it's good enough for the average family with even a big stroller, some bags, and a week's worth of groceries. I mean, all the sedans will have limited trunk space compared to an SUV, right? Oh, but wait, there's another 88-liter trunk at the front too. Eat that, ice cars. Then there are the lack of ergonomics, like the missing indicator and wiper stops. Honestly, the button indicators are something that I still cannot get used to, even after 3 days of driving. And I often have to take my hand and eyes off just to press the indicator buttons. Now, the lack of a gear lever is also something that I complain about. But hey, Tesla says its auto shift feature makes up for that. Well, it works for me sometimes, but not always. Admittedly, it is still on beta currently. Moving on, the minimalist cabin is also not to my taste. I like tactile buttons, knobs, and manually adjustable aircon vents as opposed to everything controlled on the screen. I also prefer conventional door handles that will work faster and more easily. I would also like a bigger rear view mirror and perhaps a one-piece glass roof compared to this two-piece one here. Oh, the blind spot indicators hidden inside the tweeter compartment, or should I say X compartment? Get a pun? Anyway, why can't it just be integrated into the wing mirrors where it's easier to see? But I guess all these are subjective. Now you won't believe the amount of hate I get from stating my personal preferences in my Model Y video, which makes me think that all the features here in the Model 3 is a carbon copy from the Model Y. I think if you don't know better, right, both cars' dashboard to the center console are exactly the same. Anyway, I digress. This Cat A Model 3, the haters call it weak. The truth is, it's better, faster, more economical, and stronger than many of the cars the haters are defending. They say it's not a real driver's car, it's for nerds. But tell me, which real driver enjoys sitting in a traffic jam with the car spewing toxic fumes, paying higher running and maintenance costs as their car get progressively more and more problematic and worn year after year? Now, to me, right, these people are afraid of change, of the nerds. Now, never mind the lower price tag, the lower horsepower, and the lower Cat A tier that this car is perceived to be in. Because the reality is, today, even as the so-called weakest Tesla, this Tesla Model 3 rear-wheel drive 110, this nerd is actually the MVP that's really the proof of how far ahead EVs already are. So my advice is simple. The world is moving ahead. No, the world has moved ahead. Now, if you are considering changing to an EV, this Cat A Tesla Model 3 rear-wheel drive 110 variant is an extremely strong contender. Go test drive it for yourself, twice, so that you get a better feel of the subjective interior, the lack of a signal stop and a gear lever, and the one pedal drive. But if you don't like this car and somehow watch all the way till this part of the video, right? Well, in fact, if you are a Tesla or an Elon hater, you are someone like me who used to think that I would never touch a Tesla. Well, I myself have a changed opinion about the value, the function, and the experience after trying out the Model Y and this Model 3. Now, if you are a non-believer, I really recommend that you at least go sit in a Tesla before you continue to throw. So if you ask me now, would I change from my BYD Seal to a Tesla Model 3? Well, my answer would still be a no. That's because I can refute any EV haters argument with my BYD Seal 2. While this isn't the video to say this, I still know that the Seal is a darn good EV, even a world-class car. So BYD and Tesla, that's another topic for another video, which in fact I've already done for the Sea Lion 7 and the Model Y. Watch that one too, okay? Anyway, if you enjoyed the breakdown for this Cat A Model 3, don't forget to hit like, drop a comment, and share this video with your friends, okay? And subscribe for more straight up EV topics right here on this channel.